Hey guys, what's going on? So I recently made a video talking to you guys kind of the best way to get a really good deal on one of these new 2026 Mustang GTs. Now mine's a 25, but basically the same thing since I bought it a year ago. Actually a year ago almost to the day. But I wanted to just kind of give you guys my anecdotal story of my experience buying the car. Now it was relatively pretty straightforward. I'll go more into the dealership and just kind of the issues I had with them. But really I just use exactly kind of the same method that I explained in my past video, where I just called around to a bunch of dealerships. Now there were some funny things that happened, which I'll tell you about. I think they're funny, maybe you guys don't think they're funny, but I thought they were kind of goofy. But essentially, yeah, I just went through the exact same method I explained, just calling a bunch of dealerships, giving them a immediate, very direct offer. If you guys will do this, I'll buy the car. And then as soon as I started getting numbers back, I just started working those numbers against other dealerships. Now, again, one of the tips I like to do and use is that when I call a dealership, I will tell them, hey, okay, if you give me 12% off, and that was the number I was shooting for, if you give me 12% off this car, I'll buy the car. Like, done deal, easy day, that's my offer. And they usually will come back with something lower. Okay, that's just normally how it goes. They're generally not the most kind of straightforward people, and I kind of wish they were. If they're willing to do 12% off or whatever it is, then don't hit me with like 5%, unless that's truly the best you can do, which it never is. But when they come back with a number, that's when I'll leverage another dealership's offer. I'll be like, well, why would I take your 5% when I already have 10%? I told you I'm shooting for 12%. They gave me 10, and yeah, so it makes no sense why to buy your 5% offer. But when I say 5% off MSRP. So, okay, let's get into it. So I was shooting for 12% off MSRP on the car I was going for. So I knew I wanted either black or any of the blues. So grabber blue or the vapor blue that I ended up getting. I wasn't super particular on the night pony package, but I did want a 401A. It did have to be a GT premium. And then I was kind of leaning towards the performance pack, which if you guys also saw one of my other past videos, kind of regret that. So anyways, I just started calling dealerships and just shooting them, hey, if you guys can do 12% off, then, I'll buy the car, easy day. So start calling around to dealerships. The first ones were not too bad. They came out around 8%. Now I was living in Dallas at the time, so I was just calling kind of all the local ones, and there was a lot in the DFW area, and it's not too much of a travel to go either to Houston or San Antonio or Austin or up to Oklahoma. So I started narrow and then I kept expanding my search. I kind of wish I started wide and then kind of came down. That way I got the higher offers outside the area, and then I can kind of leverage those to, dealerships that were really local to me. But I went the opposite this way. So I started at my really local dealerships and just kind of expanding outward. So it only took probably about 4 or 5 calls to other dealerships to finally get a 12% offer. So there was one dealership that were at 12%, another dealership that was at 12%. They're all pretty local to me. Both of them were like an hour away, nothing super crazy. One of them was not a 401A. It was a premium, it was a performance pack, but it wasn't a 401A, and the other one was. So I had to leverage the other non-401A Mustang 12% off to finally get the other dealership to come down to 12% off MSRP on their 401A package. So they said yes. I was like, cool. Some of the conversations were kind of funny because, I kept telling them, I'm like, hey, yeah, this is the number I'm trying to get to. 12% off. If you guys can do it, I'll buy the car. Super easy. And they kept like saying like, oh, well, if it's not in the budget, let me, we can show you a lower trim. It's like, well, thank you for downgrading my trim $10,000. I appreciate that, but no, thank you. I want my 401A premium with a performance pack. But they kept like saying, well, is it a budget thing? And I remember remember telling him, I'm like, yeah, sure, you can call it a budget, or we can call it astrology. Like, you know, like the Gemini moon is in retrograde, so my Venus star sign is telling me that I need to get 12% off this car to buy it. And I literally told him that, something like that. I just made up some BS off the top of my head. But they kept like, well, is it a budget? I'm like, no, it's a market value thing. Like, these cars are way overpriced. I've seen these deals, people getting, you know, 10 to 13% off. My offer is 12. If you guys can do it, like, cool. If you can't, hey, no worries. You know, shoot me your best offer. Maybe that's the one I take if it's the best I get at the end of the day. But yeah, no, it's, you know, so they kept like saying like, oh, is it a budget thing? Like, you know, we can help you with your payment. And I kept having to tell them, I was like, no, it's not a payment thing. And if you guys want to know the dealership, it was Mesquite Ford, right by like the mall. They're like super close to, I wish I remember the name of the mall off the top of my head, but they're like right close to the mall. But anyways, after all that really funny conversation and texting, like I was put into like a group chat, and I was talking to like 3 or 4 different salesmen, and it was like really weird, because I would explain something, and then another person would chime in, and then I'd have to re-explain everything. I'm like, dude, just go look back at, like, it was not a super great experience negotiating with them. Like, it's way more annoying than it really had to be. But anyways, so finally got them to 12% off. I was like, okay, cool. And I started talking to them in like the morning. I think it was like a Tuesday. So we were just chatting all morning, and I agreed to the deal at like 10 a.m. I'm like, okay, well, cool, guys, this is awesome. I'm about like 45 minutes away, whatever it was. And I was like, yeah, like after I get off at 4, so once I'm done with work, I'm just gonna head straight to your guys' dealership, and we'll just rock and roll, pen whip some paperwork. We got all the numbers finalized. Like, perfect. Let's just I want to make your guys' life easy, and I'm hoping you guys make my life easy. I don't want to be the car buyer that comes in like, well, I need to think about it. Can you work on my payment? Like, just, I'm good with the numbers. We're good to go. Like, let's just make this super clean, super easy, super fast. On that Tuesday, whatever day it was, my work day ended, headed straight to the dealership, walked in. I'm like, hey, my name is Jordan. I've been talking to you guys all day. We got this Mustang all sorted out. Like, let's rock and roll. Should be super easy, super quick. Everything's already solidified in terms of numbers. They handed everything to me in writing, or they gave me everything in writing. So I was like, cool, like we're good to go. So I met with the salesman, incredibly low energy. He was incredibly uncomfortable. One of the, I don't want to like make fun of people, but it was a very weird interaction. I think he was dead inside for unknown reasons. But he was like, okay, well, let me go to the back and grab your paperwork. And I was like, okay, whatever. I was like, I literally told you when I was coming in and had the appointment all set up, but like, whatever, go get the paperwork. I just kind of expected it all to be there. And I told him too, I was like, hey guys, like I don't love spending, my whole day in the dealership. We already got everything finalized. Like, let's just rock and roll. As soon as I'm in there, I want to make your guys' life easy. Like, we'll just get the car sale, done super quick, and then you guys can get back to selling more cars. Like, I feel like that was a reasonable ask, because I'm sure you guys know you can spend so much time in dealerships, and it's so annoying. Like, it's so unnecessary. But like I told him, like, yeah, I really want a super quick experience. Everything's good, so let's just make it so. But anyway, so he goes to the back, and I swear to God, this is not an exaggeration in any capacity. It took him over 35 minutes before I just left the dealership. I was waiting around, standing around, just looking at the new trucks that they had in the showroom. I didn't even see the car that I was going to buy, because it was still getting back, or it was still in the back room or whatever, getting detailed. And it was like no exaggeration, 35 minutes. I was looking at my Apple Watch, and he just disappeared. I don't know where he went. Like, maybe he went to another dimension when he walked into the back doors or something. I don't know, but I never saw him again. But literally waiting there 35 minutes, I was like, this is wholly unacceptable. So I just walked out, literally just walked out of the dealership. and even nobody like even stopped me because there was nobody like in the dealership, which I just thought was super crazy. I was so shocked by just how like appalling the experience is. And I know a lot of you guys may saying that I'm kind of nitpicking here, but like if you show up to an appointment to go spend $60,000 of your money, okay, I'm giving them, whatever it is plus taxes, whatever, almost $60,000. I would expect customer service should be like really, really good. I kind of get it if you have like a doctor's appointment or something. I don't know, maybe, or like the DMV, like, yeah, like, you can schedule an appointment all you like, but you're always going to be waiting. But like, a dealership, I literally agreed to go spend $60,000 of my hard-earned money. And, I told him like, hey, like I want to make your guys' life easy. Let's just get this super quick, all done super quick. And, we'll just move about a day. I'll be driving my new car home and it'll be, good experience. It absolutely was not. Like, I don't know. Like, I don't think that's nitpicking. Like, if you're spending that much money, there's no world in which the guy disappears, the salesman disappears, try to find paperwork for 35 minutes, and he was probably gone longer. I just left the dealership because I completely ran out of patience. If I, that's just not a good look if I'm about to go spend that much money with something and with somebody. So left the dealership, obviously, about 10, 15 minutes later, my phone is like blowing up. They're calling me, they're texting me, and I didn't answer. I was like, no, I just don't even want to deal with you guys anymore. Like, if you guys want to ghost me for 35 minutes when I'm literally ready to go spend $60,000, then I'm gonna ghost you, and that's intolerable to me, and I walk away. So it was the next day, I think it was like a Wednesday then, and then I called the general manager back. He sent me a voicemail, and he was like, hey, like, I'm so sorry about the experience. Like, he was just trying to get your paperwork, and there was, like a scratch they were trying to buff out. And in my mind, I was like, okay, why would you tell me there's a scratch on the car? If you ever told me there's a scratch on my brand new car that I'm about to buy, I just go buy a different one. Like, so that immediately killed the sale, which I think he was just kind of fibbing. But I was like, I will entertain this. So I told him, I was like, hey man, like, I'll come back today, okay, under two conditions. One, I don't ever wait that long for a car sale that's already pretty much finalized. We just need to do the paperwork and everything. Like, and I told him, like, if I'm spending $60,000, that customer service is wholly unacceptable. And I promise you, the irony is not lost on me. I totally get it. I sound like a Karen right now, but I feel like you guys can understand that is a lot of time waiting for somebody to get paperwork that should have been prepared and ready for an appointment, that I've been talking to them all day for that kind of purchase price. But anyways, I told him, like, I deal with you because I'm not ever dealing with that salesman ever again. And then two, I want 13% off. They said no. I was like, hey, no worries. Have a good one. So, yeah, I was like seeing if I could squeeze an extra percent out of them. So that was that dealership, Mesquite Ford. I'm forgetting the name, but it's the one by the mall in Mesquite, big Ford dealership. So I started calling around again, wasn't going to give up. And the good thing is I did have, those two offers at 12%. So I was pretty well set up to, just leverage them immediately against other dealerships. And so I found the car I'm driving now up in Oklahoma, Joe Cooper Ford, and I dealt with Trevor. And I will say, Trevor was a really good salesman. Unfortunately, his hands are pretty tied. We negotiated a little bit. I finally got him to like 11%, and obviously that's not as good as 12%, but the car was like my top favorite, trim and packaged car. Like, it has the Night Pony package, which was a plus. It's absolutely a 401A, absolutely a premium. Obviously, all these cars had to be manual. I was going to buy a manual car. And then also, too, it was a GT Premium. Maybe I already said that, but it had literally every single package I wanted. Also, is my top favorite color, too, with the Vapor Blue. That was number one, but I was open to Grabber Blue or black. And I was even kind of open to white, but it was like literally the most perfect spec car that I wanted at the time. So I was like, you know, at 11%, that's still really good. I kind of got set on this spec car. So I kind of settled at 11%. 11% is still really good for these cars, but people have and are doing better on them, especially on the 2026 model years for sure. So again, for those of you guys out there that are buying the car, shoot higher than 11%. You can do better than 11, okay? Unless you're just really, really stuck on a very specific, trim, color, package, option car, then I guess, take it. It's still a pretty good deal for sure. Also, they were relatively close. Oklahoma City was like 3 hours from me, so not super, super far. Definitely a good road trip, but not like crazy far. I didn't have to like fly anywhere, so I was like, okay, cool, let's do it. The issues I ran into with this dealership though was kind of like the financing thing. I told them I was open to financing with them if they wanted to, so they're like, okay, cool. And then they gave me like a really high rate. It was like 7 or 8%. I was like, that's too high. That's kind of crazy. So I was like, hey, if you guys give me that, is there any like penalty to pay off the car early? Because I was like, I can just go get a really low rate. I got like a 4% rate, 4 point, whatever with my bank. And I was like, yeah, I'll just take your guys' rate if that's part of the deal, which it was. I had to finance through them, but if I can pay it off in a month, just with, just refinance at, my new bank rate, then I'll take it. I'm good with that. It kind of sucks taking the double credit hit, but it's within a month, so I don't think it's like, super crazy. But I was like, yeah, I can do that if we have to. And they're like, yeah, that's totally fine. So I was like, all right, that's a bit of a hassle, but whatever, I'll deal with it. So made the drive up there again. All the numbers are solidified. We got everything already set. But I made the drive up there. And, it was actually a pretty good experience working with Trevor. He was at the door waiting for me, showed me the car, took it for a test drive. Didn't really have to take it for a test drive. I've driven plenty of Mustangs. But just took it for a test drive, and he started working on the paperwork right away. Everything was set. So I was like, okay, this is a really good experience. Like, this is, Joe Cooper Ford, Trevor, you guys are doing a really good job. I appreciate this. Then we get to the F&I guy. This is where Joe Cooper Ford needs work. Your guys' F&I department is abysmal, like truly awful. So the F&I guy comes over, and I just reiterated to him what I just kind of told you guys. I was like, hey, I know this deal is dependent on me financing with you guys. We're at a super high interest rate. You guys confirm with me over the phone that there's no there's no penalty if I just pay the car off early, because I'm just going to refinance at a much lower rate with my bank in a month. So and he was like, well, why would you want to do that? I'm like, well, because your guys' rate is crazy. And he's like, well, it's not, he's kind of started going back and forth. I'm like, I know you're not giving me buy rate, right? You guys are taking the buy rate, charging it up, and then you're handing me a very marked up sell rate interest. And he was like, yeah, that is what we're doing. I was like, well, thank you for at least being honest with me. But I was like, yeah, no, your rate is crazy. He's like, well, if I can, lower your payment, would you want? I was like, well, how would you lower my payment? He's like, well, I can extend your loan length. And I was like, why would I want to do that? And for you guys who don't know, the reason why they don't want to do this, there is no penalty, or there was going to be no penalty if I paid the loan off early with them and just went through, my bank and refinanced. But the reason is because there's a reserve they make, okay? When they get a rate from a bank, okay, if you're financing with a dealership, that's the buy rate. Usually with dealerships, they just take the buy rate and they give you that, and, easy day. What this Ford was doing is they were taking that buy rate, charging it up a few percentage points, and then giving me that rate, which was called the sell rate. And that difference there, they make a reserve on. The problem is if they don't make the reserve with the bank, then they get a charge back on that. So it's going to cost them money if I pay the loan off early with them and just go refinance with my bank. Hopefully you guys are following. I'm trying to explain this the best I can. This is definitely not kind of like my realm of kind of expertise. I think I know enough to kind of know what I'm talking about here, but you know, this, I'm just kind of giving you guys my whole anecdotal experience with buying my car. But anyways, yeah, that's why they don't want it. You know, they didn't want me to go refinance, because I told them that's exactly what I was going to do, because they would take a chargeback from the bank on the reserve that they would have made. So he was like, well, hey man, let me go, you know, see if I can get you a better rate, which they refused to do over the phone. They gave me the runaround, like, well, no, you just have to take this rate. It's the only bank we go through. And I was like, okay, whatever. If you guys told me I can go refinance with mine, then whatever, I'll just do that. Now they're telling me a little bit different thing. Now they're telling me, well, I can go try different banks. So the F&I guy, which I really wish I remember his name, because he was just so bad, just so terrible, just slimy. You know, like, and I know you guys know what I'm talking about. Like, you go to a dealership and you just deal with, you know, some people are fantastic. I don't want to rip on salesmen or F&I guys or dealerships, but I know you guys know exactly what I'm talking about when you deal with just like a slimy salesman. This guy was him. But so he goes back and he gets me a really good rate, that's actually, that was slightly lower than the bank that I was going to go with. So he comes back with that, and he was like super hesitant to tell me, but he kind of got the words out. I was like, oh, I'll take that one right now. Like, easy day. That's slightly lower than my bank. Let's just rock and roll with that. And then he like tried to start selling me. I'm like, well, the problem is, you know, I want to take this other bank with a higher interest rate, and if we can do that, I can give you. And he started trying to sell me on the high interest rate. And I'm like, dude, what are you doing? Like, why on earth would I do that? And he's like, well, let me tell you this. I can offer you employee pricing on all Ford parts. I was like, dude, no, like, no. Give me the low interest rate, okay? You bit the bullet here. So, because I guess the bank that I wanted to take, or, you know, that he showed me afterwards, was a bank that wouldn't let the dealership do a reserve on or do a, you know, buy-sell rate difference thing. But I don't know, he kept trying to like sell me out on the high interest rate. I'm like, are you crazy? Like, just give me the low interest rate. It's lower than my bank. I'm super happy with that. And then I don't have to go refinance in a month. Like, this makes the process so much easier for me. And it was just like so insane to me that the dealership was like trying to make my life more difficult, make me spend more money so they can make a reserve and more profit. Like, I don't know. Like, I just feel like if I had a business and I were working with customers and I showed them like, you know, a really, really good option, which I thought was really, really good, and they clearly liked right away, I'd be like, yeah, this is the one. Let's just do it. Like, am I making as much money on it? No, but this is the one that makes you happy. It's a smart decision. Obviously, lower interest rates, much better than a charged up interest rate. So, yeah, so we finally get through to that. I definitely was kind of giving him a hard time. Maybe not so much a hard time, but during the whole time I was like kind of laughing, you know, like he'd be like, well, you know, the high interest rate, like, you know, we can give you some discounts on parts and stuff. And I literally would just start laughing in his face. Like, I was like, no, man, I'm not doing that. No, thank you. Like, I was having a pretty good time doing it, and I could tell he was getting frustrated with me. So we finally get all that settled, go back to the F&I office, you know, where they take you in the back into purgatory and really try to sell you on stuff. Fortunately, I think he kind of realized I was just like not having it anymore. So he tried to sell me a warranty, and I was like, no, thanks. And then a few other things, you know, the protection packages, the service plans. And I, you know, just very quickly, it was like, no. And he didn't argue, didn't fuss with it. And so that part was relatively smooth. But yeah, overall, Joe Cooper Ford of Oklahoma City, your salesman, Trevor, fantastic. Genuinely a great guy, genuinely wanted to help me get the best deal. He definitely, you know, didn't make any commission on the sale, but he got a Mini, and I, you know, hopefully he didn't spend too long on the car. in terms of like his time as a salesman selling me the car. I feel like I'm relatively straightforward and easy to work with. Like I said, like just give me this offer and I'll buy the car. They came back with 11 and I was like, that's good enough, I'll take it. But anyways, yeah guys, that was my experience buying this car. So I did finally end up buying it from, like I said, Joe Cooper Ford of Oklahoma City. Drove it back, and it's been my car ever since. So hopefully that kind of gives you guys at least some anecdotal insight into my experience buying these cars. Like I said, you guys can get easily 12% off these cars. Shoot for 13. The deals are out there. Just gotta be willing to call around and deal with some dealership BS. Like, it's really annoying, but it's definitely doable. It can be done. There's kind of like some naysayers you'll find on like Facebook and the forums, like, oh, why would you ever want, why would you ever ask for a discount? It's not a discount lot, it's a new car, yada, 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 whatever, who cares? Okay, the car's overpriced. If people are selling them at 12% off, that's market value of the car. Obviously, if they're willing to sell it and people are willing to buy it there, that is what the market value of these Mustangs are. So why would you ever pay more than market value? And again, kind of like what I said in my last video, we don't care about invoice. What a dealership pays for doesn't mean anything to us, okay? Like, a dealership will go make $5,000, $10,000 on a sale with markup and add-ons and warranties and, all that garbage. And they're never going to whip out invoice to the customer and be like, hey, look how much money we just made off you. But as soon as you want to buy a car that's below their invoice, then they take out the invoice and kind of play the crybaby games. But fundamentally, as a consumer, as a buyer, you don't care what the dealership paid for the car. You care what market value is, and you want to get the best deal. So, there's a million reasons why car dealerships are willing to lose money. I probably sound like Tommy at Delivered, which is where I get most of my tips from when it comes to this stuff. So, shout out to him. But anyways, yeah, no, like, don't care about invoice. Like, if a dealership, shows you invoice or whips out invoice at you, like, it's not your concern. It's irrelevant. So, anyways, guys, I appreciate you guys listening to my ramble about how I kind of bought this car and how everything came to be. Hopefully, this kind of gives you some help if you guys are looking for a car like this. But yeah, thanks for watching, guys, and I'll catch you guys in the next video.